are pleased to welcome bowling coach Angela Reynolds, who is still waiting to finish her first full season at Kutztown University. And we will get to that in a moment. But Angela, let me go back to when you started bowling. How did you become interested in the sport?
Well, my father bowled like 4 or 5 nights a week. And so my parents started me out on like bumper buddies at Stanton Lanes in Wilkes-Barre here. I started bowling when I was 3, and every Saturday my mom ran the junior program and took me to tournaments on Sunday.
At what point did you realize that you could be someone who could go to college and do this as a student athlete at that level?
Well, I had a different road than most around PA. PA is pretty big on high school bowling, but I did not have high school bowling at my high school. I actually played softball. I was a starting pitcher for Northwest, and I got recruited for softball to a couple colleges. But I knew that wasn't my road to go on. So I started sending out recruitment videos to coaches, here near and far. I had a few like that were really interested, and I chose Dell State. I loved it there. So it was 3 hours away from home, and it was perfect.
At Delaware State, you got your degree in psychology. What was
Yeah.
your interest in that field?
Um, I figured I didn't know where I was going to go, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I knew after being under the guidance of my college coach that I did want to coach college team. That was my dream job. So I figured like psychology was good for the mental part of it, and I did take some. I took most of my credits for a coaching management at Dell State. So
I want to get to the coaching courses in a bit, but back to the psychology, both when you were competing and now that you are coaching, how does that help you deal with the pressures and deal with student athletes?
Uh, I think it. I think everyone should take psychology sometime in their life. It just gives you an out of the box perspective on things. I really enjoyed it. I thought like everything was black and white, and this is how it was. But there is so much gray in the area that sometimes it's worth having having a shot at something else. When I coach, I try not only to be about physical game, but about mental game and give the girls hopes to really get the team together. It's a team sport. So it helped me in like putting that together as they don't have to be the perfect shot or something like that. But if you have your teams behind you, sometimes it brings out the best in everybody.
As far as the coaching classes, there will some will say, that's just somebody just trying not to do the work and do whatever. But I wonder how beneficial they have been to you.
It teaches you so much that you didn't even think of, especially in the sport of bowling. Um, Everybody thinks you just go out there and throw a ball. There is so much to it that, if you're not out there doing it at the level that we are, you don't really understand it. There's different balls. There's every like moving on the boards. There's some people that don't even know like how long a lane is or how much a pin weight. There's other critiques to it. So it taught me about how like to manage a team, to how to express myself as a coach, and how to obviously I was a student athlete at the time, so it kind of told me how to step out of the student athlete realm of things and go into a coaching part of it.
You mentioned that you realized fairly early that you wanted to be a college coach. You're doing it at a very young age. How rewarding has it been thus far?
Oh my goodness, it is amazing. This is the best job in the world. Like I can't even it's great. I get to do something I love. Obviously, I don't get to do it anymore myself. An injury, I can't bowl. I don't bowl anymore. But to watch girls develop into players that are are so wonderful on and off the lanes, like that's a joy to watch.
When you look at the sport of bowling today, has it lost popularity? It seems like there are centers that are closing, but are there still good players out there that you can find?
Oh yes. In my little like in my area right here in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, we actually have I had recruited one last year. Um, but yeah, my home center closed. That I bowled at since I was a young child. Actually, both of my home center, Colonial closed when I was young, and then Stanton just closed about 2, 3 years ago, and that one really hit home. I worked there for many years. That's where my mom ran the junior program, and I went every morning like when I was in college, I'd come home on weekends and go there and coach the peewees and bantams. It was the best. I loved it.
Let's talk about what you have in terms of your team and getting ready for tournaments and matches and things like that. What's a typical practice like for a bowling team?
So they usually get to the center, they warm up, do some jumping jacks, get the blood flowing, and then we usually have a pattern down with sport shop pattern at J Lanes or at Burke's, and they develop a communication. So they get lined up, which is they're just trying to get to the pocket. So we go like 6 lanes of this. I have 19 girls on the team, so it's a lot. So we're not getting as many shots as if we had 20 lanes, but still they get lined up, and then we do some Baker doubles, which they bowl doubles every other frame. We do a lot of spare work, a lot of spare work. Some practices we touch our first ball, like our regular ball in the beginning. We do spares through the middle, and then at the end maybe we'll double to leave. Like sometimes we don't even touch that ball.
All right, I got to ask you, how do you do spare work? Can you set the machines to put up the exact pins that you want?
Some alleys actually do that. The alleys that we're at, we'll just shoot off full racks. Like if they go for a 10 pin, they just have to stay out of the gutter and miss the 3 pin, and then the 7 pin they'll miss the 2 pin and stay out of the gutter. It's been a change for some, because I know there's some alleys down there that actually set the pins up for them, and they like going to do those spare works. But now we're just shooting them off full racks, and it's a change.
I'm curious as to your opinion of how much the equipment has changed since you first started bowling.
I mean, the bowling balls themselves. I mean, they have a bowling ball to do everything. I'm surprised one doesn't come back itself, by now, or have a remote control in it. It's funny. The bowling balls changed. I always got hand me downs from my brother, so I would only throw whatever he was done with. But now, I mean, you need 6 bowling balls just to walk into a bowling alley, and maybe more if you have, if you're like the pros are bowling stuff.
Everybody talks about the shoes when you go to just bowl on a Saturday night. What are your thoughts on bowling shoes?
Bowling shoes are probably the most important part of the game. They, I mean, your consistency and slide, your feel to get to the line has all got to be the same every shot. So my girls all have their own shoes, and they all have interchangeable soles. So sometimes when we go to like really slippery lanes, the approaches, they could change their soles to like slow them down a little bit. But yeah, we always have backups. They are the most important part of bowling.
And nobody's wearing the red, white, and blue house shoes, right? Just to be sure.
Nope, no house shoes here.
In a more serious note, with your psychology degree, you have worked with children in the past. How rewarding has that been for you?
I loved my old job. I worked with behavioral children in school every day. I've worked with some great teachers. I, I have followed kids through, like kindergarten to 5th grade. Like I, I like to think it's like you had to take the small rewards as big rewards. Just changing a behavior one day was pretty rewarding. It saved a lot of anxiety for other people. Um, but I like that job, but I knew what I wanted in life, and it wasn't stopping there.
But right now, in addition to coaching bowling, you're involved in, of all things, horse racing. What's going on
Yeah.
there?
So when I was growing up, my grandparents, back to my great grandparents, we've always had the family business of Reynolds Racing. So my father had horses when I was younger. They took a little bit of a break. When I was in college, I was going home for summers to help, like in the barn. And then they took a little bit of a break. And now my brother is back training, and I work at Mohegan in the paddock with the horses.
They're such amazing animals, no matter what they're doing. What do you like most about being around the horses?
I love taking my kids there, like just to show them, like, not everybody has that opportunity that they get to be around these magnificent animals, and like just to see my kids like light up when they see them, and just hang out with them. Like, yeah, they race, and they're there to make money, and but there's so much more to that. Like they can brighten your spirits by just walking in the door.
Back to bowling at Kutztown. It was announced recently that Kayla Jones will be the first KU bowler inducted into the KU Athletics Hall of Fame. She's now coaching as well. How important is it for a relatively new program at KU to get that type of recognition?
Oh my goodness. Kayla Jones is one of my deepest friends. We talk a lot. She's great. She is a prime example of what a Hall of Fame bowler should be. And I give her all the credit. That was a great person to pick to be the first in the Hall of Fame. She's doing wonderful things at LIU. And she did, I mean, you can't even deny what she did at KU. It was magnificent. I bowled against her when I was at Dell State. So there's always been like a little bit of a rival there. And she has really taken me under her wing in the coaching atmosphere now. She's a great person. Great asset to the KU Hall of Fame.
You mentioned when you start practices, you'll do some jumping jacks to warm up and things like that. But you look at scores when you guys go away to do events. I mean, you're bowling an enormous number of games in a short amount of time. How do they stay fresh? How are they in shape to do that?
Cardio's huge. They got to be on their feet for 8 hours. Bowling shoes are not comfortable. Even the ones that we made for ourselves, they are not comfortable at all. We have a snack bin. They hit that up pretty regularly. But they just, you have to dig deep sometimes. I mean, in all sports, ours is a long day and a long season. But they want it. They want to win. So they dig deep and they go for it all.
And is it tough, Angela, if you have to do that maybe 2, 3 days in a row, the same type of schedule?
Yeah, the 3-day tournaments are pretty long. That's a lot on your body too. We usually start with 5 games the first day of like either Baker quads or full traditional games. And then the last day, when you need the most energy to go into bracket play, is usually the toughest to get out of bed and to get downstairs for breakfast and get to the bowling center. So they really do dig deep. I had a magnificent girls last year. I really enjoyed my first year. With a big roster, they're always competing to get on the travel list. So they're always, ready to learn and ready to do more.
Where does the program stand now during the pandemic shutdown?
So we have not been able to practice because we do not have lanes on the campus. So we actually have to get up in a van and like drive 35 minutes to go to a bowling center. So as of right now, we have not been able to practice physically together. I have been doing a lot of FaceTime practices, which is way different in the sport of bowling. You have to have somebody else there to hold it and get different angles. I've been doing a lot of videos with girls. They've been sending some videos in. We've been talking about what can improve. My freshmen and some of my other girls are doing some study hall. We're doing fundraising and I'm recruiting right now until we can get back on the lanes all together.
How tough has it been to be away from your team for such a long time?
I always say like, oh gosh, I might be losing my touch. We ended on such a high last year that, you know, I was so excited to go to championships. And when it got cut short just a little bit, it just broke my heart because these girls have come so far from that first practice that I had them at to, I mean, Morgan State was our best showing. We finished second against Mount St. Mary's, like we had a great run there. And I just feel like get back on the lanes before you lose your touch.
You mentioned earlier about doing some recruiting. What is the recruiting process like for a bowling coach?
Well, I usually look at a lot of stats of like tournaments near me. Kutztown is a perfect place because there's a lot of girls that just want to come here to bowl. So I have a lot that reach out to just me, and then I go from there usually. I have it's hard because not every place has high school bowling, so you can't see like everybody on the high school atmosphere. But I get girls from Jersey, Lockport, New York. We have people from afar, but mostly everybody wants to come to Kutztown. It's a great school. It's a great program. I love it there.
I want to close by asking you about a couple aspects of the game. Obviously, you're an individual, but you're also trying to help your team win, and then it's such a mentally demanding sport as well. How do all of those intermingle over the course of a weekend?
Oh, there's some highs and lows. I take 8 usually, 5 bowl at a time. So I usually have 3 subs. Um, it could go wrong really fast and it could go good really fast. So really, I always tell my girls, you have to respect the girls around you, and they are your team. When you are in the Kutztown gear, that is your job. Um, and when someone's coming off the lane, like you are there for them. That is your teammate. Like, doesn't matter if they missed a spare or threw a gutter ball. As long as you are there for them, we will get through this together. And we've had some good highs last year, and there was lows too, but that's everywhere.
Well, hopefully you're back rolling very soon. We appreciate you taking the time, and you need to get that first full year done sooner rather than later. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you so much.
It starts as a golden bear, but where you finish, that's untold. Because when the raw materials are put in the right hands, that's when you strike gold. It's good to be golden.
Joined by swimming coach Tim Flannery. And Tim, you've been around Kutztown now as head coach for 25 years. Let me start by asking, what do you like about the town and the area?
Oh, I just love the rural location. One of the things was where I came from. The U.S. Merchant Marine Academy was Long Island. It's not a knock against if you grew up on Long Island or anything like that, but you couldn't go anywhere on that island without hitting traffic. And I love the rural setting. I just really, I said one time when I brought my team here from the Merchant Marine Academy in the fall of 1995, and we were driving in via 222, and I was like, wow, this is just a beautiful area. I could live out here. And sure enough, within a year, I was coaching at Kutztown. So, I love the area. The people are great, and it's just, you can get to things here. It's not like you're completely isolated. If you want the big city, Philadelphia's not too far away, or New York City's not too far away. So
When you walked on campus as head coach for the first time, did you think it would be at least 25 years?
no. I wasn't putting the time limit on this job. I did put a time limit at Merchant Marine, and I said that this is going to be a 3 and 5. I'm going to be here for at least 3 years, but I'm not going to be here beyond 5. And it was the end of the 3rd year, and jobs started coming open. And Ken Ralph, who was the coach here at the time, Ken he called me, and I coached Ken back in the summer of 1987. And Ken called me and asked me if I'd be interested in applying for this job. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I applied for it and got it, and we accepted, and been here ever since.
You mentioned Merchant Marine Academy. You also were an assistant at Navy. If you could just describe what it's like to coach those types of student athletes.
Oh, the kids at Navy, the thing is, there's a difference between the two academies, okay? And the kids from the Naval Academy, obviously they're developing officers for the Navy and the Marine Corps. The Merchant Marine Academy, those kids do have the option to go active duty if they want. But also, the thing is, you're creating those kids to at that time for work inside our maritime industry, okay? Ship movements. We need people in this country for those big ships, and that's what the Merchant Marine Academy is for. So it's a little bit different, but the athletes, definitely the ones at Navy, they'll give everything they absolutely have. And that was the best part about coaching them. And, but the thing is also you have to know how to coach inside that system. You know that your plebes are always going to be tired, okay, because they're just getting run around all the time. But the thing is that, it's a game, as I would tell them. The upper class has their game, you've got your game. And then, but the thing is that we can coach you and get you ready for the big meets and stuff like that. And that was one of the things in the recruiting process that you really had to work on. But the other thing is too, is that in the recruiting process, a lot of times Army, Navy, Air Force are usually fighting over the same kid. It's just kind of dependent on what that kid wants to do. So, that was kind of the beauty of coaching there.
You were a very excellent swimmer yourself back in the day. How and why did you end up on the coaching side so quickly?
It was the very first job I was offered right out of Springfield. I did some interviews with a couple of insurance companies, but the thing was, in that summer, after I graduated, I still hadn't secured a job, but my coach at Springfield called me about a job in New Hampshire. And it was an age group coaching job. They were starting a brand new United States swimming club in New Hampshire. So I applied for it and got interviewed, and they offered me the job right away. I was probably the only interviewee, most likely. But anyway, I just doing that coaching, I met a lot of great coaches that year. Jenny Thompson, who was one of our most decorated Olympic swimmers. Jenny Thompson was a 14-year-old in New Hampshire at that time. And I got to see her swim quite a bit. I got to know her coach, Mike Parada. But after that year, my coach called me and asked me if I wanted to go back to Springfield to get a graduate degree and be his assistant coach. And it's just, I loved it. It's fun coaching. It's great, like taking a kid and getting them to a certain point and seeing that kid's success. And, it's just kind of like, it's sort of a virus that you can't get rid of.
Speaking of the virus, what have you, nice segue there, by the way.
Yeah.
What have you guys been able to do in the pool or not in the pool over the first semester?
Well, we weren't able to do much because we had the outbreaks on campus, so things got shut down. But we were in the water for about 3 weeks, and we were just about, basically I had my pod systems, and we were training for about an hour a day in the water. 2 days a week we would do dry land with Kevin, and that was about it. And then so that was about the last 3 weeks before we sent him home right before Thanksgiving. So it really wasn't a whole lot. And the thing is, I wasn't so much worried about their physical shape. I was worried more about their mental health. And I said, you know what, let's kind of view this as hydrotherapy right now, to get in, get moving about. So that's kind of how I used our practices as.
Has anything been discovered, Tim, about the reaction between the virus and the water and the chemicals that are in the water? Is there anything known about that, good or bad?
Well, the thing is, what they found right now is swimming's a low risk sport, and it's because of the chemicals. The right way to breathe in swimming is you're actually exhaling underwater. You're not exhaling above the water. So the thing is, if you're exhaling into chlorinated water, the COVID-19 virus is going to get killed. The thing you have to worry about, though, is that when the kids are on the walls. Now, I've been, flu outbreaks. Okay, I've been part of teams that the flu has gone around. The thing that has gone around more has been pink eye. But the thing is, you have to worry about the swimmers like being on the wall together. So what I was doing was giving every single swimmer their own lane, but I would have one group starting at one end, another group starting at another end, just keeping them separated that way. But a lot of teams, especially in the South, Division I, they're going full speed ahead with the season. But a lot of schools, at least in the Northeast, aren't doing it. Like the Patriot League, I don't think is going, even though Army and Navy is still swimming. But the Division III schools aren't, like Williams, Amherst. they've canceled the season. So
Now, the PSAC will hold championships in the spring. Kutztown has opted out of that. How tough a decision was that for you?
it was a tough decision because, we mulled it over for about, on a phone call with our vice president for about 45 minutes. And it was like the season was going to be walking on a tightrope. There was just too many unanswered questions. If we get a COVID outbreak, at the team, we're gonna lose 10 days. So everything had to go just right, but there's just not enough answers for me to go forward. So the thing is, what we will do, we will train probably our non-traditional season, and keep the kids in the water that way, and just get ready for next year. And yeah, it's a tough decision, but the thing is, this year is just it was crazy to begin with, starting last March. It's probably going to remain crazy until, who knows. And there just wasn't enough assurances that the championships are even going to go forward based on, state laws and stuff like that, because we still are inside. So
I've seen some ideas where you can hold meets with virtual times where you're going to be in different locations. As a competitive swimmer, how tough would that be to not necessarily have that opponent right in the lane next to you?
It's real hard. We used to do that when I swam at Springfield. We used to do phone meets where, you would, we'd swim a team far away or something like that. If our coach knew a coach or something like that, he goes, let's do we'll do a phone meet today. So, it was like a time trial, but you want that person right in the next lane with you. Sometimes, your teammates just don't generate that. Sometimes you need somebody that you haven't seen to really, get your competitive edge going. So, the virtual meets, I know that U.S. Swimming did that with their championships, the U.S. Open this year, where they had it in different places and then brought times together. But there still was kids, like they took different sections of the country, but you still had that kid swimming there, and they just brought all the times together. So this, it's just not like the real thing. There's no substitute for that.
You've had the good pleasure of coaching 27 All-Americans, a couple of NCAA individual champions, over 25 years. Go back to even with the men's team. Is there something or a few things that really stand out for you over that time?
Yeah, there certain swims. I think some of the things that have stood out are not necessarily like the NCAA championships, even though that's, like with Steph Jefferson or, Matt Rowan when I would bring them to the national championships, but just, certain dual meets that trying to get the team up for it. And I just remember one year, right off the top of my head, we swam Swarthmore College, the men's team. Their coach at the time, Sue Davis, wanted to swim us. And I could never work it out in the schedule. So we swam them one year down to Swarthmore. They ended up beating us in the final relay. So the next year, they were going to make a return trip to Kutztown. And our guys really wanted to win that meet. And I said, well, this is how we're going to go about doing it. And those are the things that I love, is that when you're talking to the team and telling them how the meet goes. I still do that with the women's team. Is the day before the meet, here's the lineup, here's what you got to do, here's what the other team has. And those are the situations I love more than anything. And those are the things that I can remember. I can still remember some talks I had with the team when I first came to Kutztown. And that was, 25 years ago. But those are the things that I remember. Those are my greatest memories.
The swimming coaching staff doesn't always have a ton of members. You don't have an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, pitching coach, that type of thing. But there are certain specialties in the sport with the different strokes. How tough is it to be a swimming coach?
It can be tough sometimes. And, I always thought that, you just a coach a kid in the water. Well, there's a heck of a lot more to it than that. There is, like, trying to stay up on the latest, training regimens and stuff like that, and trying them out for yourself. I know that you go to, especially now, you do webinars and stuff like that. And, one of my favorite clinicians is Eddie Reese, the head coach of the University of Texas. And he'll start talking about his program. Well, the thing is, I'm not going to take everything that Eddie Reese does and try to apply it to Kutztown, because it's not going to work. So you take bits and pieces of, and you steal from everybody. Hey, I remember this set that this coach did. I steal from everybody. I steal from coaches that I've known. I steal from my assistant coaches, different sets. I love stealing sets from Erin Goodhart when I had her as my assistant coach, because she always came up with some great freestyle sets. So that's the biggest thing, is just always being open to different thought processes. But a lot of times you're still going back to the basics that I learned from Charlie Smith at Springfield College. You got to, if you want to swim fast in a meet, you got to swim fast in practice. So sprinting, you got to do some sprinting every part of your practices. So.
The last thing, I want to circle back to something you mentioned about the mental aspect of your student athletes, because they're so regimented and focused, and they know what they're doing early morning to late at night with their studies and their training. How tough has it been to manage all that through this?
As I tell them all the time, it's just that you got to stay active. I know, we always talk about social distancing now and all that sort of stuff, and that's all fine and good, but you have to get out. And like I said, taking swimming, I had kids that were emailing me, "Coach, can we get in the water?" I go, "No, I can't put you in the water. Not allow us to put you in the water." So you got to get out. You got to find some other things to do. Go to the weight room, get out and run. Do something, stay active, bike. So that part, as far as their mental health, that's definitely a benefit. And you don't have to be an athlete to do that. And that's very, very important. And I know that, from my own experience, being physical, that's part of your mental health. And that kind of, puts things in perspective.
Tim, appreciate you taking the time. Continued success.
Thanks, Steve.